Inequality word problems today, so more of those words and how to write the inequality word problems. We've already practiced it a little bit, so this is going to be more of a review type day with everything with that stuff, okay? As you have questions, make sure you're asking. Okay, let's start with solving each of the absolute value equations. As a reminder, you must isolate absolute value first, which a lot of you guys don't do. You may not split it into two different equations until it is isolated. You may not decide it is no solution until the absolute value is isolated. It is important that the absolute value is isolated first. Okay, so number one, is the absolute value already isolated? Yes. Is that isolated? No. Is there anything outside of my box on the same side of the equation? No, so it is isolated. So from there, take off the absolute value. Stop writing one of the equations. Stop being lazy and using this equation as one of your equations. You need to rewrite it. It's causing issues for you guys. You guys are so lazy sometimes. It's just one little line. So take off the absolute value and write your two equations. Also, as you go to study for your quiz on Friday, I'll give you your review in class tomorrow, remember all the notes are posted to the Google Classroom, so they're all in one place. So if you need to study the notes, you can find them all there. So we split into two equations, and we get 2x minus 4 equals 10, and 2x minus 4 equals negative 10. So x equals 7 and negative 3. I'm going to do the check off to the side here if you want to write this down. I'm going to do it on the whiteboard over here. So if we were to check this, we would plug in 7 first and see what happens. You must do what's inside the absolute value first. So that would be 14 minus 4 is the absolute value of 10, 10. So that's good. Then we would check the other one. So we would do 2 times negative 6 minus 4 equals 10. Negative 12 minus 4. I did something wrong, I think. I put a negative 6 instead of a negative 3 in here. Okay. So that would be negative 6 minus 4, which equals 10. Is the absolute value of negative 10, 10? Yes. So those both work. Those are not extraneous. They both work. A lot of you guys are getting things as extraneous when they're not because you don't know how to follow order of operations. So be careful with that. Just saying. All right. The next one there. What do we have to do before we can decide this is no solution? Because this is not no solution right now. Jayla, what do we need to do first? How do you do that? Being multiplied. There you go. Guys, you do not distribute into an absolute value. Do not distribute into an absolute value. At this point, is this no solution? No. But you notice it's isolated, so you can split your two equations. I'm going to split them up here. Somebody say they were confused?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I don't have enough room.
Oh, okay. Then use this upper sheet of paper.
Okay.
All right, so we solve these. And we get 5x equals 3, so x equals 3 over 5. We solve this one, and we get 5x equals negative 5, so x equals negative 1. Okay, I'm going to check it off to the side here. So when I go to check this one, do not distribute the negative 3 into absolute value. It is not a parenthesis. You may not distribute into the absolute value, okay? Everybody understand that? So I do what's inside of the absolute value first. So that's 3 plus 1 equals negative 12. 3 times the absolute value of 4 is negative 12. What is the absolute value of 4? 4. So that becomes 3 times 4, because the absolute value of 4 is 4, which is negative 12. That works. We do the other one. So again, do not distribute into absolute values. We have negative 5 plus 1. Inside the absolute value, you need to be doing that first. What is the absolute value of negative 4? 4. So 3 times positive 4 is negative 12. Is that true? So they both work. So again, I'm just writing the checks off to the side. If you're not writing the checks down, it's not a huge deal. I'm showing you guys how to check them. This is more of a review for those of you that are struggling with this stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do example 4, and then we're going to move on to the actual notes for the day. Hopefully this kind of helps you guys out a little bit with this stuff there. Mike, what would you need to do first in example 4? As what? Okay. Can you rewrite into 2 equations yet?
No.
This is where a lot of you guys made your mistake on the homework. You guys would split the equations right away. What must be done first? Riley?
You gotta get rid of the 2.
We need to isolate the absolute value by moving the 2. That has to happen first. Do not split your equations until this step is done. This is one of the biggest mistakes I saw. Actually, the biggest mistake I saw. Hopefully, this clarifies not to do that today. Does that make sense? So, Mike, what do we actually need to do first?
You need to divide by 2.
It's being added.
Oh, wait, no, subtract.
There you go. So you still keep the absolute value on. You do not drop it until it is isolated. Hey, we have the absolute value is equal to negative 1. What should you be thinking? Alyssa, what did you say? No solution. Will you ever be able to take the absolute value of something and get a negative number?
No.
No. So this is no solution. So once you get here, you can decide it's no solution. Absolute value will never equal a negative number. Before I move on, does that clarify some of the questions you guys have been having with absolute value? Okay. We noticed when you guys struggle, as an Algebra 1 team, we really try to work to make sure you guys understand things that we really put a lot of emphasis on the end of course exam, okay? And I know that's hard for you guys, but we have done well in the past with it, and we want to continue that for you guys, because then you don't have to take your final at the end of the semester, or end of second semester, if you do well enough on that in Algebra 1, okay? We want to prepare you for it. When you're ready, you can flip and we'll start doing some examples. All right. Go ahead and flip to the next page when you are ready. So I know you're there. Okay. You are making muffins for a class party. You need 2 cups of flour to make a pan of muffins. You have a 5-pound bag of flour, which contains 18 cups. At most, how many pans of muffins can you make? Should you write an equation or an inequality, and why? Should you write an equation or an inequality, and why? Josh?
An equation?
Why?
I don't know.
Jordan?
An inequality.
Why?
Because it says at most.
At most. Does at most mean an exact amount?
Oh, I see that.
No. Reading and directions are super important. I know that's hard for you guys sometimes. But at most means not an exact amount. So it's an inequality because you are not finding an exact amount. So first define my variable. What am I trying to find before we write this equation, inequality, I mean? What am I trying to find in this problem? Mike? So I'm going to call that P. So the number of pans of muffins. So you have a 5-pound bag of flour which contains 18 cups. Is some of that information not even useful in here? What can't we even use? Jana? The 5 pounds, but it already converts it for you, right? So that you're using cups and cups. Remember, you can't mix units, so it wouldn't be good to use the 5 pounds with the 2 cups, would it? So it already converts it for you. You don't have to know what 5 pounds means. It means 18 cups. So we don't really need to worry about that 5 pounds. That number is not going to be used. That's kind of extra information in there that is converted for you. So how are we going to use 2 cups of flour to make a pan of muffins, and you have 18 cups total? What would the inequality be that you would write? What are we thinking? Colin?
I think it's 2x.
I'm going to use P, but yes, okay.
2p, sorry, 2p is less than or equal to, or no, wait, less than or equal to 18.
So why did you stop yourself and think about that less than or equal to for a minute? Guys, listen, because this is important.
I didn't know if it was equal to or not, but then I checked back and it said at most, which means it could also be.
And why is it less than when it says most? A lot of kids want to make that greater than. Why is it at most less than? You're not wrong. I want to know why it's that. Because a lot of kids get confused because they want it to be greater than because you see the word most, right? Lexi.
Because if you put the greater than sign, then you're almost like limiting what it has to say, and you're basically like saying that it's less than what you want.
So be careful here. If you have 18 cups and you put a greater than sign, why is that an issue? What is that saying?
Because then the pans has to be greater than 18.
Right. Do you have more than 18? No. So think about the amount you have. Do you have more than that 18 cups? No. So can you put a greater than sign there? No. So you have to logically think about that kind of stuff sometimes when you're doing it. Okay, so we go to solve it. You did a very good job, Colin, with yours. It's 2 cups per pan, right? And you have no more than 18 cups of it, right? You have 18 cups, but no more. So you can divide by 2. We don't flip the inequality there. We get P is less than or equal to 9. So you can make at most 9 pans. Now, notice the words I used here. I used the words at most. I used the words at most here. You need to make sure you don't say you can make 9 pans, because it's not asking for an exact amount, right? It's saying that amount or less. So by saying at most, it's saying it could be 9, it could be 8, it could be 7, okay? So just make sure you're realizing your wording there. So look at that and see what questions you have so far. Did you not see because of your glasses, or? Okay.
Yeah, we always fight on that.
Right, next one says, to avoid a service fee, your checking account balance must be at least $500 at the end of each month. Your current balance is $536.45. You use your debit card to spend $125.19. At least how much money must you deposit back into your account to avoid a service charge or service fee? So first question, inequality or equation, and why? Brian, inequality or equation and why?
Inequality.
Why? At least, which means what?
But you can't have more than $500.
So it's an inequality, it's not an exact amount. All right, so what is the inequality that you would write here? What is the inequality that you would write here? Mike?
125.
Be careful, is that saying you spend $125.19 per thing? Okay. So we know it has to be greater than or equal to $500, right? Do you agree with that? In your banking account. You have $536.45 in your bank account, but you spend $125.19, right? What is this missing then? It's missing a variable, right? How do I put the variable in this one? Deanna? So that's what Mike was saying earlier, but it's not saying you spend $125.19 per item, right? It's just saying you want to put a certain amount of money back in so that it's greater than or equal to $500, right? So what would you have to put there? Yeah.
Plus X.
Just plus X. So if I do X plus that, so the X is the amount you need to put back into your account. So this is saying the amount I need to put back into my account plus what's currently in my account and what I've just spent, all right, has to be greater than or equal to $500. So I do. Somebody do 536 minus 125.19 for me. Did somebody else get that?
Yeah.
So 411.26. Okay.
Yeah.
It's greater than or equal to 500. So we have 411.26. We subtract that on both sides. So somebody do 500 minus 411.26 for me.
I got $88.74. Yep, I got that.
88 what?
$88.74.
Perfect, sorry. Are you hitting that button to change it?
Well, that's just what I get normally.
The fraction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to change it with with the S to D button.
Oh.
Okay. So you must put back at least, so notice I'm using that wording, at least $88.74. Okay, so a family is taking a cross-country trip by car. They drive at an average of a speed of 55 miles per hour. If they want to drive at least 400 miles per day, how many hours per day do they need to travel? What's the inequality here? First of all, why is it an inequality? I already told you that. Why is it an inequality? Jayla? At least. And what does at least mean? It's not exact, so it's an inequality. And what does at least mean? You can have more than 400 miles on a day. Okay, so what is the inequality that you would write up here? What is the inequality that we should write up here? Kaylee, what is the inequality we should write up here? So we want to travel 400 miles or more is what this is saying. What does X represent here, Kaylee?
Miles. Hours.
Number of hours, right? So we divide by 55. Somebody tell me what 400 divided by 55 is.
It's a big number.
What'd you get though?
7.7.
Can you travel for partial hours? Is that allowed?
No.
Oh yeah, you can.
15 minutes?
So it takes you exactly 1 hour to get to school every day. It doesn't take you a partial hour to get here because I pray that you guys are not an hour away from school. Jeez, that would be terrible every day.
I'm like literally exactly 5 minutes away.
And see, but that's still a partial of the hour.
It just depends on the it just depends on like the traffic.
Okay, really quickly here. Oh my gosh, there's the other thing. This is not 7 hours and 27 minutes. That's what I was about to say. This is not 7 hours and 27 minutes. This is, it's 0.27 of the 60 minutes, right? You would have to do 0.27 times 60. So don't tell me this is 7 hours and 27 minutes. That's not true.
We should make minutes to 100.
Yeah, why don't they put your minutes on?
Okay, so 16 minutes? Okay, so it's 7 hours and 16 minutes and 2 seconds-ish? Okay. So you need to travel at least 7.27 hours. Somebody decided that hours were out of the 60 minutes, so that's why that's not the case. It's not out of 100, so that's the issue.
It'd be so much easier. Be like money.
Yeah.
I learned why that was the case in college, but I have completely forgotten. I did take a history of math course when I was in college, so.
The thing about being a teacher of math.
What?
The thing about being a teacher of math, you have to do that.
Yep. I don't remember much from it, but. All right, when you're ready, we have 2 more problems, and then you guys will get your homework assignment.
Lunch is in 20 minutes. 26 minutes.
Can we not do homework tonight? I don't feel like it.
You still need to do homework tonight, whether you feel like it or not. All right. If the perimeter of a rectangle is at most 24 centimeters and 2 of the opposite sides are each 4 centimeters long, at most, what are the possible lengths of the other 2 sides? Connor, equation or inequality, and why? And why? What words made you think that?
At most.
At most makes that an inequality. It's not an exact amount. What does at most mean? What does at most mean, Connor? They're not laughing at you, if you were wondering. It was the noises that were happening in the hallway. It's not exact, but what does at most mean in terms of this problem? At most 24 centimeters. What does that mean?
It has to be at least that, or 24.
So at least and at most are conflicting because they're opposites. So what does at most 24 mean? That amount or
That amount,
or what?
or higher.
So that's what a lot of you guys want to say when you say at most. You want to think that amount or more, right? Because you see the word most there. I understand exactly where you're getting it. But if it's at most, if I have at most 20 students in my classroom, do I have more than 20 students in my classroom? No, so it's that amount or less. Okay, it is. It's conflicting because you want it to be most to be more, right? But it's not. So it's that amount or less. Okay, so we have a rectangle with opposite sides of 4, and this has to be, the whole entire perimeter is less than or equal to 24. What are the possible lengths of the other 2 sides? So what do we have to label the other 2 sides then? X, or I'm going to call it L because they're lengths. So L equals the length. So to find the perimeter, what do we do? Lexi?
Did 2 and then I put it inside parentheses x plus 4.
It's perfect. That's fine to do it that way. I'm going to just add them up. So 4 plus L plus 4 plus L is the same thing. And then it has to be less than or equal to the perimeter of 24. So this perimeter of a rectangle, this rectangle isn't a specific size. It can be multiple sizes is what it's saying. So it's saying, what are the possible lengths if the width is set at 4 to make our rectangle whatever size we want it, less than or equal to 24. So we have 2L plus 8 is less than or equal to 24. We subtract 8. We do not flip the inequality unless you multiply or divide by a negative. So divide by 2, so L is less than or equal to 8. I'm sorry, that's an L. The letters are bad in math sometimes. They all look like numbers. You want them to be numbers. So the length is 8 centimeters or less. So notice I put or less in here to indicate that this is an inequality. Somebody's kicking something. I have no clue who it was.
I don't know what it was.
Okay, Mark's Outdoor Store rents canoes for $20 plus $35 per hour. You do not want to spend more than $150. How many hours can you rent a canoe? So you do not want to spend more than $150. What does that mean? Is it that amount or less? Yes, are you getting that amount or less when you hear this? You have $150, so you can spend that amount or less?
Yeah.
So we need to spend less than or equal to $150. Miguel, what is the other side of the expression on the other side going to look like? If it's $20 plus $35 per hour. Good, 20 plus 35x, where x is the number of hours. Notice I always label my variables. You need to get in that habit. The EOC is going to require that. We do not flip the inequality unless we multiply or divide by a negative. What's 130 divided by 35?
3.714285.
Okay, we'll start at 7-1.
Oh, I know, right?
Okay, just guessing here. If you were renting a canoe and they say that you can only have it for 3 hours, and you go for 3.71 hours, are they going to charge you for the partial hour?
Yes. No.
No. Most rental places charge you for full hours. Like if you rent anything, so if you were to go over, they would charge you for 4 hours then. So you might as well just use it for 4 hours at that point, right? So what do we actually need to say this is? Remember, it doesn't follow normal rounding rules. We cannot be spending more than $150. So what is the most number of hours that you can go? 3. Even though normal rounding rules would dictate that to be 4, it has to be less than or equal to 3.71, and 4 is bigger than that. Okay, so that's why that doesn't work. So x is less than or equal to 3, so you can rent for no more than 3 hours. So again, using that language in there to make sure that you are indicating it's an inequality. All right.